This is the story of how the second richest person on Earth dropped $173 million on 2 Miami mansions within a single week. The timing of these purchases reveals everything about what's happening with America's wealthiest citizens right now. Between late December 2024 and early January 2026, Google co-founder Larry Page acquired 2 waterfront estates in Miami's Coconut Grove neighborhood for a combined $173.4 million. That number alone grabs attention, but the money isn't what makes this story interesting. What makes it interesting is what Page was running from. Understanding why someone worth roughly $270 billion would suddenly scoop up 2 massive Florida properties requires knowing about something called the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act. Before we get into that, though, let's look at what Page actually bought, because these properties aren't ordinary houses, they're pieces of Miami history. The larger purchase carries the name Banyan Ridge, a 4.5-acre waterfront compound sitting at 3585 Anchorage Way in Coconut Grove. Page paid $101.5 million and closed the deal on December 29th. The property hit the market in June 2024 with a $135 million price tag, dropped to $115 million, and then Page made his move. Calling Banyan Ridge a house undersells what this place actually is. 8 separate but interconnected buildings spread across those 4.5 acres, totaling around 11,800 square feet of living space. The estate includes 13 bedrooms and 15.5 bathrooms. Meditation gardens wind through the property alongside secluded courtyards, expansive terraces, an infinity-edge pool, and a private boathouse. The whole thing perches on a 17-foot limestone bluff overlooking Biscayne Bay with 180 feet of water frontage. The property's namesake steals the show, a 100-year-old banyan tree towering over the pool. Mark Lewis, husband of the previous owner, once described Banyan Ridge as a secret Garden of Eden. Looking at the photos, that description seems about right. The history here gets even more interesting. One of the houses on the Banyan Ridge property dates back to the 1920s, a Mediterranean-style home built for William Jennings Bryan. Bryan ran for president 3 times, served as Secretary of State under Woodrow Wilson, and prosecuted the famous Scopes monkey trial in 1925. He loved Miami and became one of the area's biggest boosters. Page now owns property connected to that legacy, adding an unexpected historical dimension to what otherwise looks like a straightforward real estate transaction. Jonathan Lewis's estate sold the property. Jonathan passed away in July 2023 from CNS lymphoma, a rare brain cancer. His father was Peter B. Lewis, and if you've ever had car insurance, you probably recognize the family business. Peter served as chairman and CEO of Progressive Insurance from 1965 to 2000, transforming a 40-employee company into the 3rd largest auto insurer in the United States. When Peter died in 2013 at his Coconut Grove home, his net worth stood at approximately $1.25 billion. Peter assembled 10 separate parcels during the 1980s to create what became Banyan Ridge, then built a modern home on the property in the early 2000s to complement the historic Bryan-era house. Jonathan inherited the estate and lived there until his death. Jonathan made his own mark on Miami as a prominent restaurateur and LGBTQ advocate who helped open the Grand Bay Hotel in Coconut Grove and owned popular restaurants, including one called Toby's, named after his mother. Esquire magazine recognized Toby's as one of the 10 best new restaurants in 1985. Banyan Ridge had never been available for purchase before this sale. Redfin ranked it as the 4th most expensive home sale in the entire United States for 2025. Days after closing on Banyan Ridge, Page made another move. On January 5, 2026, he purchased a property at 3085 Monroe Drive for $71.9 million through an off-market deal, meaning the property never appeared on public listings. This second property, sometimes called Casa Bahia, stands in contrast to Banyan Ridge's historical character. Built in 2015, it features contemporary architecture with flat geometry surrounded by tropical vegetation. Marketing materials describe it as a modernist dwelling that appears to hover over the surrounding greenery and water. The house spans about 10,400 square feet with 7 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms on nearly an acre of land. The water access sets this one apart. A corner lot position gives it frontage on 2 sides along Biscayne Bay, plus an 80-foot boat slip. Inside, there's a 700-bottle wine cellar, floor-to-ceiling glass, wraparound balconies, and an infinity-edge pool. Roger Barnett and his wife, Sloan Lindemann Barnett, sold the property. Roger runs Shakely Corporation, a nutrition and green cleaning products company, while Sloan works as a journalist and inherited substantial wealth as the daughter of late billionaire businessman George Lindemann. The Barnetts purchased this property in April 2021 for $45.9 million from Jorge Mas, the construction executive who co-owns Inter Miami, the Major League Soccer team with David Beckham. The property appreciated more than 60% in less than 5 years. The Barnetts turned a $46 million investment into nearly $72 million. That appreciation tells you something about what's been happening to Miami's luxury real estate market. Page's two properties don't sit next to each other. They're about a 4-minute drive apart, less than a mile away. Unlike billionaires who buy neighboring properties to create massive compounds, Page now owns 2 separate estates in the same neighborhood. In about a week, Larry Page spent $173.4 million on Coconut Grove real estate. Brokers say this kind of purchase recalibrates the entire neighborhood, pushing prices to around $7,000 per square foot. The question remains, why the sudden urgency? Why did one of the world's richest men need to make these purchases right at the end of December? The answer involves something called the 2026 Billionaire Tax Act, and understanding why it matters requires knowing one specific date, January 1st, 2026. In October 2025, a ballot initiative landed on the California Attorney General's desk. The measure, backed by the Service Employees International Union, would impose a one-time 5% tax on the accumulated wealth of California billionaires. This isn't income tax. This targets total assets, everything someone owns, including stocks, bonds, business interests, and investments. 5% sounds modest until you apply it to someone worth $270 billion like Larry Page. That calculation works out to around $13 or $14 billion. That kind of number tends to get attention. Here's the detail that sent alarm bells ringing throughout Silicon Valley. The proposed tax would apply retroactively to anyone who qualified as a California resident as of January 1, 2026. The measure wouldn't face voters until November 2026, but passing it would mean applying it to anyone living in California at the start of the year. This created an extremely tight deadline. California billionaires who wanted to avoid the possibility of owing billions in taxes needed to establish residency somewhere else before January 1, 2026. California complicates that process by determining residency based on what they call substantial ties, which includes time spent in the state, family location, and the location of major business interests. Supporters of this tax proposal frame it as a fairness issue. Representative Ro Khanna, a Democrat representing part of Silicon Valley, defended the measure by saying it's a matter of values, that billionaires can pay a modest wealth tax so working-class Californians have Medicaid. Omar Ocampo, a researcher at the Institute for Policy Studies, pointed out that the billionaire class saw their wealth nearly triple in the last 6 years, and a one-time wealth tax would only put a 5% constraint on that accumulation. The revenue projection from California's nonpartisan Legislative Analyst's Office estimated tens of billions of dollars. 90% would fund healthcare programs like Medi-Cal, with the remaining 10% covering administration, education, and food assistance. Opposition came fast and fierce. Hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman wrote on social media that California is on a path to self-destruction, warning that Hollywood is already toast and now the most productive entrepreneurs will leave taking their tax revenues and job creation elsewhere. Even California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom opposes the measure. Speaking at the New York Times DealBook Summit in December, Newsom called it really damaging to the state and said the evidence is in, the impacts are very real. Your politics probably determine whether you view this tax as fair or destructive. What happened next isn't debatable. California's billionaires started leaving, and they moved fast. Larry Page's Miami purchases fit into a coordinated exit strategy that became visible through public records just days before the January 1st deadline. Business Insider reviewed official filings showing Page converted several business entities out of California in late December 2025. The biggest move involved his family office, an entity called Coop. On December 23rd, Coop converted from a California entity to a Delaware corporation. Delaware seems like an unusual choice until you realize a huge portion of American corporations base themselves there legally. The state offers favorable tax treatment, strong privacy protections, and a specialized court system designed for corporate disputes. Unlike California, Delaware doesn't require limited liability companies to disclose director names and addresses. For someone like Larry Page, whose family office operates with secrecy that observers describe as unparalleled, that privacy carries real value. Coop wasn't the only entity Page relocated. The same filing showed conversions for Flu Lab LLC, which funds influenza research, and One Arrow, which backs his flying car ventures. One Arrow now lists its principal office address in Florida. Dynatomics, a startup Page launched in 2023 focused on artificial intelligence in aircraft manufacturing, converted from California to Delaware with a new principal address in Keller, Texas. Page even moved entities used for island purchases. LLCs previously used to buy property in Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Fiji all converted from California to Delaware, some now listing Florida addresses. His wife, Lucinda Southworth, runs a marine conservation charity called Oceankind, which also converted to Delaware in December. A source close to Page told Business Insider that he has already left California, though the source couldn't confirm whether the move is permanent. The New York Times had reported in December that Page told associates he was considering a move to Florida because of the proposed wealth tax. Attorney Christina Rosado, who handles many assets for Page and Southworth, signed the legal filings. The family office operates under CEO Wayne Osborne, known for maintaining extreme privacy around Page's business affairs. What emerges from these records shows a billionaire methodically severing legal and financial ties to California before a critical deadline. The Miami real estate purchases serve a purpose beyond acquiring nice houses. They establish residency and create what California tax law calls substantial ties to a new state. Florida eliminated state income tax back in 1968 and doesn't collect estate or inheritance taxes either. For someone with Page's wealth, that difference measures in the billions. This playbook looks familiar because we've watched it play out before. Another tech titan executed almost the same strategy, Jeff Bezos. In November 2023, Bezos announced his relocation from Seattle to Miami. He mentioned wanting to be closer to his parents and his fiancée Lauren Sanchez, but observers noticed Washington state was debating its own wealth tax proposals at the time. Bezos didn't settle for one house. He launched a shopping spree in a neighborhood called Indian Creek Island, which locals nicknamed the Billionaire Bunker. This guard-gated island holds only about 40 homes, maintains its own police force, and keeps streets completely private. Only residents and invited guests can enter. In August 2023, Bezos purchased his first Indian Creek mansion for $68 million. October brought the house next door for $79 million. April 2024 added a third property for $90 million. His total spending on Indian Creek Island reached $237 million. Reports estimate Bezos saved around $1 billion in taxes through his relocation. His neighbors on Indian Creek now include Tom Brady, Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner, billionaire investor Carly Khan, and singer Julio Iglesias. The parallels between Page's move and Bezos's move stand out clearly. Both involved multiple property purchases in quick succession. Both targeted ultra-exclusive waterfront neighborhoods. Both aligned with tax policy concerns in their home states. Both chose Florida specifically because it has no state income tax. Page currently sits at roughly $270 billion, according to Bloomberg. Bezos holds around $235 to $240 billion. Between just these two men, more than $400 million flowed into Miami real estate in under 2 years. That pattern isn't coincidental. Larry Page and Jeff Bezos aren't operating alone. A wave of California billionaires has either left or started seriously considering leaving in response to the proposed wealth tax. Peter Thiel, the PayPal co-founder and prominent venture capitalist, maintained a Miami residence since 2020. His firm Founders Fund operated a Miami office since 2021. Late in 2025, Thiel announced he had established a significant presence in Miami over the last several years. He's also registered to vote in Florida. David Sachs, the well-known tech investor and Kraft Ventures co-founder, relocated to Austin, Texas in December 2025. His firm opened a new office there while keeping operations running in San Francisco and New York. Sachs also serves as a White House advisor on artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency. Larry Ellison, the Oracle founder and chief technology officer who ranks among the world's richest people, has taken steps to move business entities out of California as well. And then there's Sergey Brin. Anyone familiar with Google's history knows Page and Brin come as a pair. They co-founded the company together as Stanford students in 1998. Brin currently ranks as the fourth richest person in the world with a net worth between $253 and $257 billion. In December 2025, Brin arrived in Miami for Art Basel aboard his $450 million mega yacht called Dragonfly. Early speculation pointed to Brin as the Banyan Ridge buyer, but sources indicate he's actually shopping for a waterfront home in Miami Beach. Both Google co-founders could soon hold Florida residency. Luxury real estate broker Julian Johnston of the Corcoran Group described the frenzy he witnessed at the end of 2025 in an interview with Fox News Digital. He watched billionaires fly into Miami and close on properties within 7 days, calling it a tipping point. Johnston mentioned he's currently working with 3 billionaires on relocations from California to South Florida, describing them as Palo Alto guys, who previously only visited Miami briefly for events. Brett Harris of Bespoke Real Estate, who brokered another $100 million plus sale in Coconut Grove, put it bluntly. 100 billionaires in California are all on their way to Florida, and phones are ringing off the hook. This is the 1% of the 1%. Dinah Goldentire of Douglas Elliman observed that when a billion-dollar level buyer makes a move like this, it tells you everything you need to know. Miami is the upgrade, both a lifestyle play and a financial strategy. She added that she gets calls every day and shows properties consistently to qualified buyers, with the newest wave coming from the West Coast. Not everyone is fleeing. Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA CEO worth around $155 billion, said he's perfectly fine with the potential wealth tax and plans to stay in California. Huang appears to be the exception rather than the rule. The proposed California billionaire tax still hasn't qualified for the ballot. Supporters need to collect somewhere between 546,000 and 900,000 valid signatures by June 25, 2026. Qualifying and earning voter approval in November 2026 would make it apply retroactively to anyone who held California residency on January 1, 2026. Legal experts widely predict court challenges if the measure passes. The retroactive application raises due process clause concerns. Questions exist about dormant commerce clause violations. Some attorneys suggest it could face challenge as an unconstitutional bill of attainder, which targets specific individuals for punishment. But here's the thing. For billionaires like Larry Page, waiting to see how legal challenges play out represents a billion-dollar gamble. The safer strategy involves leaving before January 1st and establishing residency in a state without income tax. If the California measure fails or courts strike it down, you still own beautiful waterfront property in Miami. If it passes and courts uphold it, you avoided a tax bill that could have exceeded $10 billion. The math works out pretty simply. Spend $173 million on real estate or risk owing $13 billion in taxes. That calculation doesn't require much deliberation. Where does all this leave us? Larry Page, the man who co-founded Google in a Stanford dorm room in 1998, who created the algorithm that changed how the world finds information, who led the acquisition of Android and helped put smartphones in billions of pockets, appears to have left California. The state that generated his unimaginable wealth, the state where Silicon Valley was born, the state synonymous with American technological innovation for decades. He purchased 2 estates in Coconut Grove, a historic neighborhood that evolved from a bohemian artist enclave into one of America's most exclusive addresses. One property features a 100-year-old banyan tree and a house once built for a 3-time presidential candidate. The other showcases sleek modern design and nearly doubled in value within 5 years. He converted his family office to Delaware and moved his flying car company to Florida. He established substantial ties to a state with no income tax, joining Jeff Bezos and a growing roster of tech billionaires following the same path. The proposed California wealth tax may or may not become law. It may or may not survive legal challenges. But regardless of what happens next, one outcome is already clear. The mere threat of this tax triggered one of the largest migrations of concentrated wealth in American history. According to one analysis, Florida's billionaire population grew by nearly 1,900% since 2001. The state now accounts for more than 13% of American billionaires, up from just 3.4% at the turn of the century. In 2025 alone, Florida recorded 19 residential sales above $50 million. New York had 12, California had 10. Miami placed 2 sales in the top 10 most expensive home transactions in the entire country. Whether billionaires should pay more in taxes or whether wealth taxes drive productive people away, this story exposes something fundamental about how the ultra-wealthy operate. They possess the resources, the lawyers, the family offices, and the flexibility to restructure their entire lives around tax policy. A deadline set for January 1, 2026, triggered a flurry of corporate conversions and real estate purchases in December 2025. The system responds to incentives, and $173 million in Miami real estate represents Larry Page's response. The banyan tree at his new estate has stood for 100 years. It weathered hurricanes, survived Miami's transformation from a small town into a global city, and watched Coconut Grove evolve from a winter retreat for families like the Rockefellers into a billionaire enclave for the founders of the digital age. That tree will probably still be standing 100 years from now. The question is whether the wealth that just moved underneath its branches will stay in Florida, or whether some future tax policy will send it somewhere else. For now, Larry Page made his choice, and that choice positioned him within a migration reshaping not just Miami's real estate market, but the geography of American wealth itself.